In this video, I am going to cover how to create quarterly and weekly views in Airtable. Welcome back. My name is Tom. If you are new to this channel, what I cover on this channel are personal lessons as well as tutorial videos for Airtable that I enjoy doing. And in today's video is very special as I am actually responding to a viewer for the first time. So I received this comment and it's from Cho Vu. And basically, he was asking for a way to to build a base that can track our shop's expenses in category like shop and cafe. And the tricky part is to have it grouped by week, Monday to Sunday, and by quarter. Is that too specific? And I actually went through and responded in a very detailed paragraph, and then basically said, I can certainly make a video on it. And then he responded, yes, a video would be a great gift. So in the spirit of the holidays, I figure it would be appropriate to go ahead and create this video for you, Chao, and see if it's helpful. And let me know if it does, and definitely leave a comment. But with that said, let's go ahead and hop right in. So here is an example base for business operating expenses. Now, what I've done here is try to create a location, and you can call it a category, however you want to look at it. I'm originally from Ohio, and I currently live in Texas. So I have, this could be representative of your business, like your cafe and shop, but I just did it by location here. But again, this is just a template for dummy data for this purpose of this tutorial. What's more important is how to set this up, okay? So we have all these expenses, and I have dates ranging from December of 2022, which is you see on the bottom here, and the rest is going into next year because I want this video to kind of be somewhat relevant in the future. However, it's all grouped together, right? So you want to set it up into a weekly or quarterly view. The very first thing you need to do to set up is create a separate table. And again, this is just one of many methods. Without having to do an overly complicated formula, I like to do a separate table that kind of do a setup or configuration, right? So here we create a calendar table to configure our calendar, and you can set up by weeks and by quarters. So what I've done here is make sure your week ID is something generic like this, week 1 and so forth. And as you're building it up, as you're running your business, just add the weeks. And then I have something here for our current year, 2022, for weeks 51, 52 for December. And this is the date range. So when you select the date, I selected the Monday, right? And then ending on the 25th, in this case here, to represent the week start and end date. And then from there, I create a single select drop down with the different quarters. And then once you create that setup, I assign the quarters, in this case here, fourth quarter for December. And then I also pulled in the January months. I pulled in a second quarter starting in April, and then as well as July for the third quarter, just for this tutorial. This is a simple table layout. You can certainly configure this for the remaining part of the year, or do it as you go. So by doing that, you got this all set up. So if you go into your operating expenses, what I've done here is that I've already kind of created it. It's hidden. So I'm going to go ahead and unhide it for this purpose as if we're going to create it. So we have a week and a quarter. I'm going to unhide it. And then now, this is where the magic happens. You create a week column, and then you link it to the calendar. So you go here, you do link to another record, and then select calendar, or whichever you want to call it. I call it calendar here. And then you want to make sure you uncheck allow linking to multiple records, because you're not going to have an expense tied to multiple weeks. And so by unchecking that, it's very unique. And then you hit save. And then now I have all my weeks that are available. Now let's go ahead and delete. I'm going to kind of do this real time. So let's go ahead. I'm going to delete these first 3 records for December. You see how the quarters disappeared. Now, this is a lookup, and I have a tutorial video if you're interested on how to do lookups. So you create another column next to your week, called Lookup. So when you do a lookup here, you type in lookup, and then you select the week table that we actually create that, and the column next to it. And then you select the period, which is what I called, for the quarters. So I hit save, and then basically it's going to do a lookup based on the week you select. So going back again to calendar, you see the period, right? That's what it's looking up. So by creating a column for weeks that is linked to the calendar, it's going to use the key, the week ID here. It acts like the key, and then we're going to use a lookup to look up what period that ID is tied to. That's how it works. So by going back to operating expenses, if I go ahead and select week 51 and scroll down, oh wait, sorry, not scroll down, it's right there right in front of me. Select that. Actually, you know what? I realized the date is 12/30, so it's actually week 52. So let's go ahead and select week 52. So that's the date right here. Select that, and it automatically pulls up and look up the quarter. So what I'll do is I'll drag this, since these are all the same dates, I'll just drag it for these two records, and it automatically populates. So that's how you do that setup. That's how you create the relationship to the calendar table. Now, to get to the view that you need, to get to a quarterly view, what you want to do is create another view on the left side and create a grid view, hit the plus sign, and then let's call it quarterly view, okay? Hit start, new view. Okay, this is the default data, so what you want to do is group, and you want to group it by your, well, let's go by quarter, right? So we want to group by your quarter. See all fields, go to quarter, and now all of a sudden, all your data has been rearranged based on quarter. Now, if you right click on this arrow, and then like I said, collapse all, now you got it by quarters. Then you can simply expand, and you see all your expenses tied to that quarter, okay? Now, if you want to see it by week, you can actually create a weekly view within the quarter by going to the group by, and then you can do a subgroup by the week. So by selecting that, now if I expand the fourth quarter, now you got it by weeks. So now when you create every week within that quarter, it's going to have its own line item, and you can expand and see the expenses and the roll up of the amount for that week. So if I wanted to create something within the fourth quarter, to kind of show you how this works, let's go ahead back to all operating expense view. And I know it's not going to match up, but let's say this date, 1/30/2023, fell into week 52. Just to show this example, I'm going to select that. Actually, you know what? Let me select 51 because I want that. That's still in fourth quarter. Slightly different than the rest. Still fourth quarter. Go back to quarterly view. Boom. You got fourth quarter, week 51 that we just added, and then week 52, you see all the expenses. So that's how you can create that view on a quarterly. Now, honestly, you can also create a view specifically for the weeks themselves. But I just want to kind of show you how to do the grouping and subgrouping. That way you can, get to the view really quick. You can certainly create more views based on any of these columns. But that's just one way of doing it. I'll do one more view, which is based on location. So do the same thing. You go to all operating expenses, hit a view grid, create a new one. Let's say it's by location. And then you can say by location, by quarter, as an example, right? And I highly recommend be very specific with your view titles. So here we go. We have by location. So what we're going to do is group by location, rearrange everything by location. And then I want to do a subgroup by quarter. And all of a sudden then I'm going to go ahead and collapse all that. So simplify it. So you have by location. Let's say I want to look at by Texas. And then I want to look at second quarter. And I have one expense there. Let's look at what the fourth quarter looks like. Okay, you got two expenses there. So you can see the power of just having the right data set up so you can create the views that you want. So going back to all operating expenses, these are the two key columns. And that's all you need to do is set it up. It's really, think of it as a way of tagging these records to a particular category or ID based on the calendar that you set up. And then once you get this set up for the entire year, you can reuse it next year by just updating the dates, or just do it as you go. You can always delete it and start fresh on a weekly basis. You can update. So for example, if I wanted to add, a week 31, so I hit a plus sign, do week 31. Let's say that's the current week I'm in. And then I'm going to pick the next date after the 30th here. So let's go ahead, June, July. Let's go ahead the 31st. And then select it at end of August 6th. And that's still in third quarter. So now I have a new record, week 31. Go back to my operating expenses. Let's go pick the first one. Even though the date doesn't align, this is where kind of like the manual check is that you have to do. But let's go ahead and pick week 31. Scroll down, week 31. So now there you go. So let's say on a week basis, you want to update your expenses. This is just how you would do it without having to create the whole calendar up front. But totally up to you if you want to do that. But you can certainly do it on a week by week basis. Now, as you notice when I selected, it's a whole bunch of weeks to pick from, right? So if I go hit plus, and there's a whole bunch of weeks. If you only want to see the current week when you build it out, there's a way to do this. And I know I'm going a little bit more advanced here, but let's go back to calendar. And you simply create a status field. And I'll tell you why. So let's go ahead and create a status. And then we'll make it into a single select. And then we're going to say active and then closed. Okay. So let's go ahead and default everything to active. Okay. Now again, this is just going to help with a little bit more for selection purposes. So by having it all active, what this allows me to do is I can create a view that it only shows me active weeks. So let's go ahead and create a view called active weeks. Create. And then I'm going to do a filter, add a condition, and let's go ahead and select where the week, the status, is active. Okay. So now the filter is there. Now what's nice about it, if I go all weeks, and let's go ahead and say the current week is, the 31st, the week 31. I'm gonna go ahead and change this to closed. Drag it all down. Let's say that's the only one I want to be available. And then now all of a sudden when you go to active weeks, it will only show the one record. Okay. Let me go ahead and hide that excess field there. Okay. So you have the one active record. The reason why you want to do this is that you can actually go back to the operating expenses and then see where it says the week, double click on it. You can actually limit the selection, limit the record selection to a view. By selecting that, I will select a view. Instead of saying all weeks, I say active weeks. So hit save, and then it's going to tell you what fields it'll impact, right? So these are all the things that we tie together, like all the different views. So I wouldn't worry about it too much. Just hit confirm changes. And then once you do that, now if I go and try to select this week, only week 31 shows up. Okay. So that way it avoids you from having to scroll up and down. So as you complete each week, you can mark it as closed. And then only the active week is current. So that way when you're adding new records or adding new expenses, you'll just select the current week and it'll just automatically update for you. So that's another way to make it more streamlined, where you don't have to keep scrolling 52 some weeks every single time to find the current week. You can simply just change the status here and make it current. And we can test this out. Let's say I want to make week 51 active, and let's go ahead and make that active. Go back to operating expenses. Go back here, close this out, open it up again, and then I got week 51. So that's one way to really make it streamlined, make it easy for you to select the current week. You get your quarterly view, and then you have it all set up here, nice and clean. And then you have all your expenses all organized and rolled up. And you can certainly change how you want this to roll up. Like this is a sum. You can certainly select it and pick like an average, a median, min, max, so many different other ways to roll up your data. But just want you to be aware that that feature is there. So that should be it. I know this is a little bit more in depth of a video, but which is why I preset a lot of the information here to make it really easy to follow along, or hopefully it was easy to follow along. But that is it. Ciao. Hopefully you found this video helpful. This is definitely a gift for you. And anyone else who watches this, if you found this very helpful, please give it a thumbs up if you liked the video, and I will catch you guys in the next one. All right, see ya. Bye.